Hello, and welcome to another episode of Still Not Famous. We are on episode 9, which is entitled Animation Nation, where we are going to talk about animation from our childhoods through into our adult life, talking about how it looks in a modern landscape and how it puts forward a trajectory for the future. I am your regular host. My name is Josh, and I'm joined by my regular co-host, someone who's always animated in real life. It's Nathan.
Hi Josh. Yeah, I thought it'd be better if you was going to introduce yourself as Fred and me as Wilma, or Homer and Marge.
Do you know what? I was going to do something very similar, but then we've got a
Ah,
future episode coming up where it's pretty much the same intro line. So I thought, for the sake of not doing repetition, I'll do something different for this one.
okay. Well, we could just do take five. That's an inside joke. They don't know what we're on about, Josh. We'll keep it between us.
For context, there, listeners, this is like the fifth time we've done this intro because we have been plagued with technical issues. I like to think it's Claudia's sentient fringe again. She's trying to
It
mess with
is.
our
It's that
podcast.
bloody fringe, isn't it? It's bloody cringe. Yeah, you've just ruined the mystique of our production.
Claudia, it was just a joke. Leave us alone.
Yeah, forever cursed.
Well, we're not going to let Claudia interrupt this episode anymore. We're just going to crack on.
No,
So,
that's it. Yeah.
so before we dive into the topic at hand, I suppose we should probably do a little bit of history. So, I'm going to put my little teacher's hat on again and just give a
Mm.
brief little overview. So, animation itself, it began as a mechanical process back in your year of birth, Nath, 1834, with the invention of the zoetrope. Now, on the off chance, do you know what a zoetrope is?
I do. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you do.
Yeah. I was born there, remember? I witnessed it.
So, for the listeners, it's essentially one of those little spinning cylinders with vertical slits that use persistence of vision to turn static drawings into a moving photo. So, there you go, that is what a zoetrope is. And then by the 1960s and 1970s, economic pressures and severe studio budget cuts forced the medium strictly into a commercialised box. So think of a lot of your limited animation Saturday morning television programmes that were designed primarily for toy marketing. So, Nave, probably for you, something like Transformers. Then there was an industry pivot which occurred when creators pushed past these commercial constraints and wanted to be more independent for feature films, have more mature satire and advanced visual effects. So, for generations who watched it evolve, animation was defined by rapid technical transitions and industry shifts. There was a shift from the 1980s directly into the 1990s with the release of pictures such as Toy Story, which established the modern CGI standards, and this trajectory leads to where we sit today, where we have a blend of photorealistic 3D, traditional 2D, and independent internet animation, all to compete on the exact same global streaming platforms. So, before we dive into how the technology evolved into what it is today, should we start off with what was the initial spark of childhood wonder and talk about what was the first piece of animation you remember?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think for me, as you already know by now, um, early 80s um, was when I was watching a lot of television, probably more than I watch even to this day. But I was getting all like the batshit crazy cartoons and animations on the telly, like I don't know if you know this, Jamie and the Magic Torch. Remember that? You ever
I'm
seen that?
afraid I don't. What I mean, don't say it's about someone called Jamie and their magic torch. But what was the premise of Jamie and the
What,
magic torch?
exactly that. It had a really funky, trippy intro going down some sort of helter skelter, as it is. It just had a magic torch. But like I say, it was just nuts, really. There was other ones as well called Chorton and the Wheelies, but these were sort of, like I say, they were early 80s. But then there was also showing things from, or repeats and stuff from the late 70s. But I think a lot of the people that were creating and making these things were hippies and dare I say, probably partook in some of the exotic lifestyle choices. And it really showed in the programs. But as a kid, you loved it. I suppose no different to like the Teletubbies and the Tweeners and stuff. I mean, if you sit and actually look at that, it's nuts, isn't it? But kids loved it. I
I,
think people had to really be off their head to be making these sort of shows.
I think we
Uh,
have to come to the conclusion that a lot of acid was done when making these programs, at the very
well,
least.
exactly. Yeah. I mean, again, for me, the Magic Roundabout, you must have heard of that one.
Oh, I've definitely heard of that one. Yeah.
Yeah, so of course that I think it was late 70s, but again they were still showing it in the early 80s and um bonkers, bonkers. But I mean I think what drew me to that and again a lot of, and we'll probably go through this as we go through the podcast, but a lot of the ones that I did like were stop motion animation. I was just fascinated about how the figures moved. I was quite even I was young, I was aware that these weren't sort of 2D or whatever 3D sort of drawings. These were you know objects moving, and I think I was aware of it, and I think that really piqued my interest in a lot of these um, animated shows. What about
Go
you?
on. So mine is so it's in the same vein. So it's children's TV, but mine are a bit different. So I grew up with programs like the Rugrats. I take it you heard of the Rugrats,
Oh yeah,
and then Arthur. Do you remember Arthur?
yeah, I remember a lot of weird animal things, weren't there?
Yeah, Arthur, who was an aardvark.
Yeah.
But then also within the same breath, there were my era was the era that they consider the Disney like boom in terms of animation. So you have things
Mm.
like Aladdin, which we used to have on video, The Lion King, other things like Hercules. So those were kind of my specific ones. I mean, the Aladdin video I had probably rewatched it a million times. Also, my mum got us a Timon and Pumbaa spin-off video. I can't remember what the actual spin-off video was called, but I used to watch that one a lot as well. So those were kind of my first little intros into the animation world.
Yeah, it's I think that's it, isn't it? As a child, you know you're exposed to these storytelling pieces of art that I don't know. For me, I'm still into it. I could still sit and watch a cartoon or an animation to this day.
Do you know
Quite
what? Like,
easily.
if you sat me in front of the TV and went, Josh, I'm going to put on an episode of Arthur, I would definitely watch it. Arthur has a banging theme song.
It does. I do remember having a banging theme tune.
Do you
Yeah.
know what, though? I
Uh,
remember hating DW from Arthur. She was so annoying.
was that the annoying sister or something?
Yeah,
Was she the sister?
there's
Yeah.
there's a very famous clip from Arthur which got turned into a meme where there's a sign on Arthur's door and she goes, "I'm not paying attention to that because I can't read." And that's what I think of whenever I think of her. But yeah, she
I
was rude.
remember.
I hated her. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember going. I went over to visit some relatives in America, sort of mid 80s, early mid 80s. Of course, I was just used to sort of 3 or 4 channels at this point, but in America they had tons, and Saturday mornings were proper cartoon shows, and I used to love it because they were showing stuff that I was aware of, but we weren't getting it in the UK. You know, I'm trying to think of some of the things, but it was stuff like GI Joe and I think what the others were. But there was loads of them, at the time. The ones I kind of remember now are like the ones that we did have in the UK. But I think I remember seeing, and it blew my mind because again, I don't think they showed it here, but they did I don't know if you know this story, Ghostbusters cartoon, but
I'm
they did
afraid I
two
don't
different.
know.
So there was a cartoon called the Ghostbusters, but it was two humans and a pet gorilla that would go chasing ghosts. Nothing to do with the films. But when the film came out, and then they wanted to make an animation, they had to call it the real Ghostbusters. So there's two Ghostbusters basically. One's called the Real Ghostbusters, which is with all the characters that we know from the films. You know, Dr. Venkman and Spengler and Ray Stantz and Zebmore. But the Ghostbusters, yeah, it's just this weird. I don't know if it was done by Hanna-Barbera. I can't remember, but look it up. Yeah, it's
Oh, okay,
interesting.
cool. I will do. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I suppose for me, like when I think of big animation things from my childhood, I think of when The Simpsons was airing. Do you remember that episode of Who Shot Mr. Burns in 1995?
Yeah, yeah,
Now, I
yeah. It was
remember
big,
when I
weren't it? It
was,
was like a cultural thing, weren't it? If I remember.
do you know what? I remember at school it being a big thing. Like we all had our theories as young children as to who did it. And one of my friends at the time had either got a copy of it on video or had seen an early screening of it somewhere. And they were like, oh, it's Maggie. And I was like, no, it's not. No, it can't be Maggie Simpson. And then I was proven wrong, it was Maggie Simpson. But when doing a bit of research for this, I actually saw a clip of some people in Vegas where they actually had live bookie odds as to who would be the person who shot Mr. Burns. And Maggie Simpson had like a really high odd count of like 1,000 to 1 or something. Imagine being the person who bet on Maggie Simpson and it being the correct bet.
Rushing. I remember it was huge. I mean, it still is now, isn't it? But I mean, in the 90s, it was massive. I remember when it used to be on Sunday afternoons, I think it was, on Channel 4, and we'd all be in our local pub, proper like rock pub, and the landlord would have it showing on the big screen in the pub in there. So you'd literally go in and have a pint, and everybody'd just be sat there dead quiet. And if you talked through it, it'd literally ask you to leave. I mean, it didn't take a lot to upset him, this particular landlord, but talking through the Simpsons was a big no-no. I remember my dad coming in, it blew his mind. He came to meet me one day to have a pint with me. And he was like, there's all these grown men just sat there silently watching the cartoon. He couldn't wrap his head around it.
I think the thing about The
Yeah.
Simpsons is when you're a young child, you find it funny. And then when you're an adult, there's all the jokes you missed as a child. So it makes your repeat viewing like even funnier for those older episodes.
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely. Yeah. Yeah,
Another
I
one
agree.
from kind of a big animation event from when I was younger. I'm not sure if you're gonna remember this if you saw it, but I remember seeing it on Newsround of all things before ever seeing the film. Did you ever watch that Final Fantasy film called The Spirits Within?
No, I was aware of them, but I never watched them.
I remember it being like at the time treated as this like historic mind-blowing technological leap because it was really photorealistic CGI and it looked
Mm.
really completely different from any style of animation that they'd kind of been released at the time. But then I think it cost so much to make that the film actually ended up bombing, even though it had like all this hype around it. And I watched it many years after it was released, and I'm not a massive Final Fantasy person, but I actually enjoyed the film. But then I spoke to someone who is big into Final Fantasy and was just like, "Oh yeah, I like the film," and they were like, it's nothing to do with the lore, essentially, of the games."
Yeah, I've never watched them. Maybe I should sit and give them a go one day. So you recommend them all?
So yeah, I'd say The Spirits Within was quite an alright film, to be honest. Although I think when I was looking this back up for this episode, looking at the CGI now, it's one of those things where it was mind blowing at the time, but now you'd be a bit like, like really, when
Yeah.
looking at it.
I think that's it, though, isn't it? I think for me, again, we'll probably discuss this later on, but probably not even just CGI animations, but animations in general. But I think you tend to find it more with CGI. Well, that I'm aware of. You don't tend to have the sort of big names attached to to the project. And for me, I think a lot of the animations, cartoons, things that I've adored growing up. Um, I'd probably say 70% that makes it brilliant is the casting, isn't it? The voice actors. If you think of like Simpsons, for instance, nobody else could do Homer Simpson's voice or Marge. You just couldn't ever imagine them getting replaced, could you? Unless they obviously mimicking the same sort of,
I
you know,
think
t
I think
tone
it,
and that.
I think for me, I'll have to disagree a little bit, but I think it's probably dependent on the eras we grew up in. So
Hmm.
I think if it's like a TV project and it's not funded by like Disney or whatever, then yeah, you probably are going to have some unknowns in it. But when you think of things like Toy Story, which had like Tim Allen do voice work in it, if you think of even in modern films, Into the Spider-Verse, that has a few big names attached to it. I think it purely depends on the studio releasing it as to whether it attracts big names or not. I think it has kind of pivoted that you do get more big names than you used to, but
Yeah.
I do agree with some of the older ones. Like, you couldn't imagine a modern celebrity now, like you say, voicing someone from The Simpsons, like a main character.
No, no. I think that's it, isn't it? Again, I mean, I think I was quite blessed for my generation. I think in the 80s, a lot of the TV cartoons, the TV shows, there was a real, um, real vast, sorry, real huge sort of collection of quality voice actors, and they would turn up on different shows, and you know, sometimes you wouldn't even know, but you see the credits at the end and go, oh my God, you know, it's so and so from Transformers is also in, I don't know, uh, the Turtles cartoon, or was in Scooby Doo, or you know, because did you know this Frank Welker, who did Megatron from the 80s cartoon, um, also did Fred from Scooby Doo.
Do you know what? No, and I would not put those two voices together.
No, exactly. I mean, these people are just so talented. I mean, I've watched YouTube videos on them, and they're incredible. Like, you wouldn't know the same person's doing so many famous voices. Yeah, again, you know, I mean, I don't know if it's like that these days. Like I say, they don't really sort of make TV cartoons anymore, do they? If they do, they're more adult ones, aren't they? I think a lot of the time. Probably because kids are not watching telly and they're watching YouTube.
Yeah, probably more than likely. Was there a specific, or is there even still, a specific style or creator of animation, and it doesn't have to be 3D or CGI, that you really appreciate?
Uh, just like I said earlier, for me, the style is the stop motion animation. I absolutely adore it. I think it's amazing. I really like the Leica Studios. Um, you know, the guys that have done like Box Trolls, Paranorman, Coraline,
Oh, okay, yeah.
um, Missing Link. I'm trying to think what else they've done. Apparently, they've got a new one coming out as well, I think, called Wildwood. I just think it's amazing. Again, probably because of the craft. I think there's so many people involved with the puppeteers, with the model makers, you know, the set designs, building the little miniature sort of sets and whatever. I just think um, it's an um, incredible art form, stop motion. That Leica Studios, I think the guy who runs that and directed quite a lot of them films, apart from Coraline, because I think that was Henry Selick, wasn't it? But Travis Knight is the guy who he did like the Bumblebee Transformers film, which I thought was actually pretty all right compared to the others.
Yeah,
But
I
he's
didn't mind that
also
Bumblebee film either. Yeah.
no, I think it was more kept him more with the feel of the 80s, sort of, you know, whereas the Michael Bay is just a big, you know, epic Megan Fox thing, isn't it? But that Travis Knight actually is directing. He's just directed that new Masters of the Universe film, which I'm going to go and watch. I'll probably regret it. I really want to go and see it.
I've seen the
Um,
reviews, and I'm going to touch upon something Master of the Universe related in a
mm,
bit, but I've seen reviews and they're actually not bad from what I've read. So
Oh, that's good. Yeah,
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 I think you just have to
yeah.
walk in and be like, turn off your brain, like it's not going to be Oscar worthy. Yeah.
Well, again, I think because he's involved in it, and again, I thought the Bumblebee out of all the Transformers films was for me the most enjoyable one, that close to what it should be for kids. And that recent one they did, Beast Wars or whatever it's called, I actually quite like that, and that had the similar sort of feel, I thought, because they're bringing it back to what it should be. Basically, they're, like you said earlier, they're toys and they're cartoons and they're for kids. And I'm just a big kid at the end of the day, so that's what I want. Feed me it, feed me it. Yeah.
So I didn't grow up in the era of it, with the exception of Wallace and Gromit, which, very
Mm,
specific stop motiony style to it. But I remember seeing an old clip of Jason and the Argonauts and seeing other bits that had Ray Harryhausen's touch to them and being
mm,
okay, although this is not my time, this is probably very technically impressive. And when you do the research behind it, if you think of how much effort goes in just to shoot like one frame of those models moving, like must have
yeah.
been painstaking to do. So, fun fact, when it comes to Ray Harryhausen, I didn't actually know who Ray Harryhausen was until. Do you remember the band The Hoosiers?
Yes.
They had a song called Worried About Ray. It was their lead kind of debut single, and the video is Ray Harryhausen inspired. So that's how I knew who Ray Harryhausen was, because I remember someone coming out with a bit of trivia for that, for the music video.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where, although I wasn't of that era, I can really appreciate it. And obviously, I love a bit of Wallace and Gromit, and
Oh
just
my God, yeah.
filming a bit of Wallace and Gromit must have taken a massive amount of time to do.
Yeah.
But in more kind of my style, I guess, obviously I'm going to be biased because it is my childhood, but it has to be the dawn of 3D CGI boom, because you had things like Toy Story, and then you had other things from like DreamWorks, like Ants or Pixar's A Bug's Life. They're all things I grew up with, unlike Monsters Inc. So that is kind of the style I do kind of, again, biased because it's from my childhood slash early teens.
Mm.
That is the style I lean more towards. I think we are both just, I don't want to say biased or victims, but we both obviously lean on the things that are our childhood inspirations.
I think that's it, isn't it? But it's, I mean, again, I'm like you. I'm not a massive CGI fan. Sometimes they get it right, sometimes, especially in movies. But like you, I do agree. I think Pixar, DreamWorks, I think they got it right, and obviously built on it and got better and better. Um, I think the interesting thing with Pixar is, I don't know if you're aware, going way back, probably even just before my time, but kind of my era, the whole Star Wars thing. George Lucas had set up Lucasfilms, didn't he? And he'd put together all these artists and prop makers and model makers and stop motion people, and he built his own special effects company within the Lucasfilms. That then, of course, eventually went on to develop other stuff, didn't they? And Pixar was from his team, and then he sold it, didn't he? To was it? Have I got this right? Is it Steve Jobs or I don't
Do
know?
you know
Gonna
what?
have to
I
look
actually
that
don't
one up.
know, but
But
it wouldn't shock me if it was Steve Jobs.
no, but yeah. So going, what I'm saying is, it was because of George Lucas, pushing boundaries with technology and visual arts, that I think, yeah, he created Pixar and just sold it off to, I'm sure it was Steve Jobs and somebody else. Yeah, DreamWorks, that was Spielberg, weren't it? And I think David Geffen and somebody else, can't remember now. But of course, obviously, your favourite film, with CGI, Jurassic Park, again, all Lucas and Spielberg. So yeah, yeah, CGI, if they get it right, it's good. But I'm still, I don't know. I'm not. I like practical. practical magic than
I think there is something to be said for practical, like especially when you watch films like The Thing. Like
yeah.
that film is known for its practical effects, and it wouldn't have the same magic, I think, if it was CGI.
No, no. And I'll tell you another one, Lord of the Rings. You know, all them, prosthetic makeup and on the orcs and whatever. Look, frightening and real. And then you start throwing some CGI orcs about. I don't know.
You can
Not for
definitely
me.
tell in the Hobbit films, like the
Yeah,
technology is meant to be better, but it doesn't look as good as practical.
no, no. It's just a natural feel, isn't it? It's believable. I think that's it. Is when we're watching TV shows, movies, series, you want to believe it, don't you? However far-fetched it is, you want to at least be invested and believe what you're looking at is real on the screen, even though your little brain's telling you it's not.
Just to
So,
go back to George Lucas for a second, I'm not sure if I've ever
mm,
told you this story, but when me and my dad went to San Francisco back in 2017, we
yeah.
got on this little bus tour that took us all around these other places, and we completely missed, and either we missed it when the announcer said it, or the announcer just didn't say it. There was a George Lucas museum it was meant to stop off at, and we didn't stop off at it. And I didn't realise until I was looking at our little leaflet as we're getting ready for our shuttle back to the airport that we were meant to go off on this George Lucas stop. And I was so upset because I'd have loved to have gone and seen the little model.
You might have been in one of the movies. You could have been an Ewok.
Well, an Ewok's better than like Palpatine or something, I guess. Yeah.
I thought you were going to call me Jabba the Hutt.
No, I was trying to think of an insult, but my mind blanked, so we're just going to move on.
So yeah, you just keep it to yourself, Just keep it to yourself.
Going
Yeah.
from childhood, I suppose, to kind of things in the more adult style of things, did
Mm.
you have a particular program or film in animation where you're like it was more adult than the stuff you previously watched that you actually really enjoyed?
Oh yeah, loads. I mean, definitely in the '90s, it all started coming into play, didn't it? Trying to think, like what was it? You had your sort of. I remember Beavis and Butthead. Um, I quite like that, obviously on MTV because it was just stupid and ludicrous, but it had the music videos and of course South Park. I can't forget South Park when that kind of blew up, didn't it? And yet the animation's just so simple. But again, going back to what I said earlier, I think it looks almost like children have made, cut them out and made them. But it's the voices, isn't it? I mean, if you love them or hate them or find them irritating, it suit the characters, don't they? Cartman and Stan and Kenny. Who killed Kenny?
Do you know what? I think you've made it in pop culture when something of your program is referenced a lot of the time in the public. And I remember being at school, I didn't really watch South Park at the time, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I've not been a massive South Park watcher myself.
No.
It's something I've never really gotten into. I can appreciate it for what it is. I don't hate it by any means.
Mhm.
It's just not my thing. But I remember being at school and people being like, "Oh my God, they killed Kenny," and that's how you know when something's become popular.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Well, I remember you all. Do you remember Celebrity Deathmatch? That was on MTV.
Do you know what? I didn't watch it when it was popular on MTV because I didn't have MTV. But every so
Uh,
often, if you stayed up late enough on the music channel, I think it was the music channel TMF, which was the Music Factory, they would
yeah.
show old episodes of Celebrity Deathmatch, and I used to love it.
Again, that's stop motion, weren't it? But yeah, some of them had me in tears. Yeah, but that was brilliant. But it's like them robot chicken guys, isn't it? The guys who do, aren't they something to do with Family Guy?
Yeah, so
Um,
it's by Seth MacFarlane. So Seth MacFarlane does Family Guy, American Dad,
yeah,
Robot Chicken, and
yeah,
Bob's Burgers as well.
yeah. I've never watched American Dad. Seen a bit of Bob's Burgers.
Do you know
Uh,
what? I never used to be into American Dad, but the other half has been watching quite a bit of it recently. And I sat down and watched
yeah,
some episodes. And after watching a load of them back to back, controversial. I am a Family Guy person. Like I used to sit
Yeah.
there and back in the day when I was in school and in my late teens, they used to on BBC Three. It'd normally be on a Friday night or into the weekend. They'd show sometimes two or if not four episodes of Family Guy back to back, and that used to be like,
Mm,
oh, that's like my Friday night sorted. uh,
yeah.
and I do love Family Guy. I have to admit, maybe
Yeah.
because I've just watched American Dad in its entirety once, but I do have to say, in some places, it is a little bit better. I think it's because Roger the Alien
Oh,
makes it, essentially.
okay. Yeah.
So I
I'll
would
have to
rate
give it
it.
a go,
Yeah.
maybe. Yeah. I mean, again, going back to Robot Chicken, again, I thought that was, especially when they did the um, Star Wars ones. I mean, uh, it's funny as anything,
My favourite
but
Robot
yeah,
Chicken Star Wars moment has to be when Darth Vader is on, like, the Death Star, the Star Destroyer or something, and then they have Jar Jar turn up and it's like, Annie! And he's like, get out of here, Jar Jar!
yeah. I like it when old Boba Fett goes nuts with all the Ewoks, killing them all. That's, that's, I think it's just stupid, isn't it? But that's what we want.
I
That's what we
suppose
want.
not just. I mean, you also have things like Rick and Morty as well, which became
Oh yeah,
insanely
yeah.
popular at one point. I couldn't move on the internet without seeing memes about it, where it's like, oh look, it's Pickle Rick, or the episode
Mm,
where they talk about the stupid Szechuan sauce that made McDonald's re-release the Szechuan sauce for a limited amount of time.
yeah.
So that's another popular, another one that I never really quite got into. Again, I can appreciate it for what it is, and I've seen the odd clips where I'm like, oh, that's a bit funny, but I never got into it like massively. But I guess also putting comedy aside, you also have animation that's adult, that's not in the comedy realm. So have you ever watched shows either like Invincible, which is the kind of like depraved superhero one, or have you watched Arcane?
Uh, I'm aware of them both. Invincibles, I did put on once. I started watching it. I just don't think I was in the right uh, frame of mind. I wasn't in the space to watch it. So it looked good, and I've heard loads of people tell me to watch it and they enjoy it. But and Arcane, I've seen uh, advertised and stuff, but no, I haven't watched them.
Yeah, the first series of Arcane, like I didn't love it as much as my other half did, but like it has like universal acclaim. And
Mm,
Invincible, I've seen the odd clip. So, listeners, we used to work with two people. One was called Wiley and one was called Mason. And I can't remember which one of them recommended it to me. It might have even been both. They were like, you need to watch Invincible. And spoiler alert, guys, it's several years later, and I've still not watched any of it. Sorry, apart from the odd clip
oh
here or
no,
there.
that's
So,
terrible.
I think I'm going to wait till it ends, and then I won't be any further behind, and I'll just watch it. I mean, it might have ended already, or for all I know. But uh,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah,
I,
I'll get round to it.
I was going to say there's one recently that I've watched and I've loved it. It's a spin-off of Suicide Squad. DC. It's called Creature Commandos. I might have told you, mightn't I, when we had one of our chats. Did I ever tell you about it?
I don't think you have, no. When you say Creature Commandos, is it just a spin off of all the creaturey characters from the Suicide Squad, or is it something completely different?
Yeah, no, exactly that. So, yeah, I think Weasel's in it and the Bride's in it. Rick Flag's in it. Yeah, so it's like a Suicide Squad of monstery sort of characters. But do you know what? It's really good. It's not a comedy, but there's some comedy bits. Like the Suicide Squad's got the comedy elements, and again, I think it is produced by James Gunn. So, um, but if you haven't, it's definitely they've only done one season, and but I enjoyed it. It's good. It's dark, as you can imagine. So it's making me think, like you say, adult, but less comedy, more um, the
Well, do
subject.
you know what? Speaking of dark, there are moments in animated things that are aimed at children which are effing like traumatizing. So, have you ever watched either The Animals of Farthingwood or Watership Down?
Josh, I'm going to tell you something now. Watership Down would be in my top 10 of all-time favorite movies, animated or live action.
Even though it's massively traumatizing.
Yes, for that reason. And I still cry now to this day. Um,
Gosh. The thing is, it's a U rating for like universal, like anyone can watch it. And it's honestly like, I feel like ever since I watched it, I was never the same person. And you look at the front cover and you're like, oh, a film about rabbits. Oh, this will be really cute and fun. And then there's like rabbits getting caught in barbed wire. There's rabbits getting run over. There's rabbits that have like myxomatosis or like rabies. And you're like, oh, Jesus Christ.
yeah, yeah. I think, I mean, I think for me, especially the end with the elderly Hazel when he's visited by the black rabbit. Then he passes away and joins what they call Owsler, spirit guard, isn't it? That just bring me to tears. It still does.
If I was a parent and
Um,
I watched that with like my children in theatres, I'd definitely be full on sobbing.
yeah, it's 1978 as well. I mean, like you say, they didn't sort of. It just makes you wonder what was uh, deemed as a U. I don't know if you know this, but it was famously banned in like certain schools. Parents, thought it was inappropriate for the children, like you say, due to the graphic violence and the bleakness.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
not surprised. I think it should be banned
yeah,
now, to be honest.
yeah. And I remember reading the fact actually China were worse as they banned it as they didn't like how the humans were portrayed on the same level as animals. How crazy is that?
Oh, I didn't know that one. Oh,
No,
okay. Yeah.
yeah, that's because they probably like to eat all the animals.
No, I never knew that. Oh, there you go. You learn something new every day.
Yeah, yeah. I wonder if it's still banned in China. Might have to find out.
Tell you which is another sad couple of ones. So, have you ever watched The Land Before Time?
Do you know what I'm going to say? No, I haven't. I'm well aware of it. I remember it. I remember first seeing it, and I'll never remember. You know when you used to rent out a VHS tape from
Yeah,
Blockbusters or wherever it was, and you get the trailers, wouldn't you, at the start of the films, like you would in the cinema? Do you remember that?
yeah,
I don't know what the film was, but that was on it. I remember that was the first time I see it trailer. But yeah, I've never watched it. In fact, it came up onto me the other day, and I did think about watching it, but I probably will do after this. Now you say,
Okay, well, just be warned. There's a sad mum death in the film.
oh
You watch The Iron Giant? That one also has quite a sad
yeah,
little
I love
ending
the
to
Iron
it.
Giant.
Oh, the bit when
Yeah,
he goes, I'm Superman. I'm like, tears down my face. Jeez.
yeah.
And
I
also,
think I watched
one
that
that
in
I never
school.
found sad at the time, but I remember my mum saying it was sad. And as a child, when she told me laughing. But as an adult, when I rewatched it, I'm like, no, I 100% get it. Is, in the original Dumbo,
Yeah,
there's a bit where like Dumbo is rocked through the circus cage bars by his mum. And my mum used
mm,
to say she was like she used to sob at that scene. And as an adult, I 100% get it because I rewatched it probably about 5 or 6 years ago, and it was really sad.
but Disney did have that. That was their niche, wasn't it? I think all their big weren't they always orphans or the parents or parents.
Yeah, they did
Uh,
go through that phase where if you're a parent in a Disney animation, like you're either dead before the film starts or you're not long for this world when the film starts, like
yeah.
Bambi's mum, for instance.
I suppose it's a good way of drumming up empathy, isn't it, for your main character? I mean, it's probably a trick they still do now because it's like Nemo, isn't it? Finding Nemo. Um,
Oh, yeah. Oh, do
you,
you know what? That's a very sad beginning. Yeah.
yeah, his mum gets wiped out, don't she? And it's clearly if you're going to write a film or you've got to wipe the parents out.
So I did actually read somewhere, so I'm not sure if this is fact or if this counts as urban legend, but I read that essentially the reason why in a lot of Disney films, like the mum dies, so like Bambi, for instance, is because Walt Disney bought his mum a house, and essentially there was a gas leak, and his mum unfortunately passed away. His dad was fine, but the mum obviously was not. So as a result, in a lot of films going forward, he didn't want there to be a mother figure as to kind of like reflect the real life tragedy as to what happened to his mum. So yeah, I guess that's a bit of Walt Disney's personal trauma inserted into those films.
Selfish bastard. But it made him a lot of money.
Maybe like the secret ingredient is trauma.
Trauma. Yeah. You should have just tried living with me and my family for a week. That's trauma.
Do you know what? I hope when your family hear this episode, they'll give you a kicking. I hope they
Yeah.
literally pass you around in a circle and they'll just give a slap or a kick.
Yeah. They'll send me off to the circus like Pinocchio.
Ironically, if I was to ask them the same question, they'd say living with you would be the trauma.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I agree with you on
Do you know who would back them up as well? Karen.
that. Bloody Karen. Karen's
We've got to
Karen's
find a
dead
way
to me now.
to make her catch strays in every episode.
I'm going to write a cartoon called Karen.
Episode 1, she dumps her boyfriend after watching The Bodyguard.
Yeah. And he exacts 35 years worth of revenge and trauma. I might even do it CGI just to piss everybody off.
Uh, just to draw it back to the topic at hand. So we talked about traumatizing ones. Is there any animation, it could be a cartoon, could be anything else, that you feel is either a cult classic or you just feel like is misunderstood or should be way more popular than it actually is or was?
Good question. I don't think there is anything. I think for me, everything that's sort of popular and yeah, I think everything I've grown up with. No, honestly, I don't think there's anything. Well, there's a couple actually, probably, but more recent things. But again, I think we just live in a different time. I know this is probably one that you would probably pick as well. So I'll say it, but then I'll move on to another one that the same people have done. But I know Futurama, because I know
Do you
that's
know?
one of your favourites, isn't it?
Do you know what? Futurama is actually my answer, but you go ahead and finish yours first, and then I'm going to talk about why
Well,
Futurama deserves more acclaim.
I'll tell you what, I'll let you have the Futurama one. But what I was going to say is, I mean, it's an incredible show, isn't it? And again, by Matt Groening. I think he's a genius. Obviously, clearly, he's got the sort of Midas touch, isn't he, with Simpsons, with Futurama. But there's a recent one that he's done. I think they released it in 2018 called Disenchantment. You seen it?
Do you know what? I only ever watched season 1 of it. It's not that I thought
Right
it was
into it.
awful. I just couldn't get into it. But apparently, after season 1, it actually got really good. So think I need to go back and watch it.
Yeah, I stuck with it. I think I was sort of on the fence, but the more I watched, I really got into it. And I mean, maybe it's a little bit too soon that one, but that would be my pick. And also probably Coraline. But even though there's a movie, but I know it's sort of over the years it's gained more culty sort of status, hasn't it? I don't think at the time. I think when it came out, it was expected to be this big thing, but I don't think it did very well. But I watched it recently with one of my daughters. Then we love it. In fact, they did the anniversary. We went to the cinema last year, and it was wicked watching it on the big screen.
In regards to Coraline, there is some recent-ish developments I want to say with someone who has involvement with it. But are you ready to me potentially say something that's going to ruin this like film and connection that you and your daughter have?
Well, go ahead, and I'll discuss it with you afterwards off the mic.
Unfortunately, Coraline is now tainted with Neil Gaiman's involvement. I'm not sure if you've been reading the stuff on Neil Gaiman within the last year or two, but unfortunately, he's been accused of some very dark things involving nannies slash housekeepers at his residence. So I think that's kind of unfortunately put a taint on the film Coraline, I'm afraid.
Hang on, what? He didn't animate the puppets, did he? Okay, he wrote the story, but you can't take the that away from the film because of what he's done. I don't believe.
I guess we're going to have to agree to disagree on that one.
No, I think I mean what he's done is terrible. And I get that, and I agree, but you can't hold that against the film. I don't think. Do you know what I mean?
Side
Um,
note, it must
I
be
know,
very hard when you're a studio or a team that has worked on something. You really put your heart and soul into it, and then one bad egg has ruined it for everyone else.
what like Miramax.
Yeah.
Every every film by Miramax. Yeah, no, I get it, and I do appreciate that, and I think yeah, yeah. But to be honest, I forget that he's written it because I just think it's visually stunning, and and the whole story visually is executed brilliantly, and that's nothing to do with him. He's
I
got
didn't
no
even realise till
involvement.
recently that the mum in Coraline is voiced by Terry Hatcher, and yet I'd watched like 8 seasons of Desperate Housewives and Superman
Yeah,
and Lois and still didn't realise.
yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? It's Yeah, no, yeah, for me, yeah, that movie, and yet, like you say, it's got its ups and downs, isn't it? But no, going back, Futurama as well. It is popular, but I think it could have probably still deserves to be bigger than it is. What's your take on it then? Because, like you say, that
So
was yours, wasn't
I used to love Futurama back in the day, around the time it was initially cancelled, and I was very much in the camp of it's funnier than The Simpsons. It should have the notoriety of The Simpsons. Remember a lot of people at the time being like, no, it's rubbish. And then they released those 4 films, the first one being Bender's Big Score, the second one being The Beast with a Billion Bats, the third one being Bender's Game, and the fourth one being Into the Wild Green Yonder. And the popularity of those DVDs being released birthed it into coming back. Myself and Dan have been rewatching it recently, and we're just watching the first of the 2 times that it comes back, because after it initially comes back in the early 2010s, it
it?
finishes, but it has come back again recently within the last couple of years. And it's just so, it's funny, and it's also like quite quick-witted in places, and just the characters are just very interesting, and there's just so many little one-liners in it where it's a very perfect case of it does sometimes teeter the line of, oh, I'm surprised they got away with that joke, because obviously as an adult I know that that's meant in a rude context, but obviously as a child I wouldn't. It has so many quick witty one-liners that it's just such a fun and easy watch, and I still stand by my statement that it should be more popular than The Simpsons, but unfortunately that is not the timeline we live in. So,
No, Dr.
yeah.
Zoidberg for president.
And that's the thing, so many characters in it are just so unique and funny. And like when you watch these other shows like Family Guy or American Dad, like I love Seth MacFarlane, but you can look at that and be like, okay, well Peter Griffin is just more offensive Homer Simpson. And like Lois Griffin is just more offensive Marge Simpson, and so on. Whereas everyone in Futurama I feel is unique in their own right. And they're
Mm,
different from like The Simpsons or anything else Matt Groening has created.
yeah.
I suppose with
I
Disenchantment
got
you can say Bean is a bit like Leela, I guess.
yeah, it's got that kind of, tough. Yeah, she's not like the weedy princess, and same with Leela, isn't it? They're like quite kick-ass, which so they should be. I don't know. Have I ever told you this? It's going like The Simpsons. One of the studios I recorded in Northampton with music. When Alan Moore did his voice part for one of that episode of The Simpsons, it was recorded in that studio.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, yeah. So, and sent from there all the way over to wherever, LA or whatever.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that.
Interesting fact.
Yeah. Going back to earlier, I mean, I'm not sure if you remember in my little intro monologue about animation history and it being kind of commercialized on Saturday morning TV. Is there
Yes.
one particular one or two you think in particular where you look back, you're like, I really enjoyed this, but it was definitely made to sell toys first and then be a good cartoon second.
Well, yeah, I think at the time I didn't, like you say, realise it till like later on in life, especially the 80s, explosion with cartoons, your He-Mans, your Thundercats, uh, there was the Visionaries, they're all banging cartoons. But like you just said, Mask. But I didn't realise till a lot later, they were, just created, weren't they, to sell they were just advertisement to sell the toy lines for the big toy companies. Yeah, um, but I mean, for me, Transformers. We discussed it before, haven't we, in earlier episodes? But they were definitely the top of the pile for me. I mean, the 1986 animated Transformers movie, where they killed off all like the favourite heroes, was quite dark. But like you say, what I didn't realise at the time, that it was just to make way for a new toy line of characters they wanted to sell. Yeah, I couldn't wrap my little tiny brain around it. I was like, no, but why are they getting rid of him and killing off Optimus Prime? Um, but I suppose it just set me up for misery and where my life is now.
Oh wow!
You know, don't hang on to the good times because they don't last forever.
Wow! Do you know
That's
what? I
not
can't wait
true,
for your
listeners.
can't wait for your family to hear this episode.
So,
I might
I'm only
send your
joking.
wife I might send your wife a WhatsApp going, "Hey, so you want to listen to these timestamps in particular?"
Yeah, your husband's leaving you for Optimus Prime before he carks it or gets murdered. But yeah, no, they were clever bastards, weren't they? These toy companies. But you know, I mean, especially Transformers. I mean, the funny thing was the actual because it was like a Japanese toy line, wasn't it? And I think Hasbro would license the Japanese toy lines of the characters, and then obviously they go off and they make the cartoon. A lot of the time, your favourite character in use Transformers for an example. When you bought it as a toy, it looked like the vehicle or whatever it was supposed to be. When it turned into the robot, it just looked like a bag of shit, really. But um, I think the engineering in modern times has got better, so they look a little bit more like what they should do. But I suppose I suppose they use like 3D printing these days, don't they? So again, back then there was probably some Japanese toy line of people with white coats on, assembling little bolts and screws. But
Yeah.
yeah, I was always disappointed in that. They never looked like, you know, what they should do as in their robot forms.
I suppose on my end, it is probably Pokemon because obviously you have Pokemon games that still
Mm.
exist to this day and still get released. And I did like the Pokemon anime, and it's probably what converted me to be a lifelong Pokemon fan. I mean, I still buy the games to this day. And back in the day, getting the Pokemon cards were all the rage. But annoyingly, I threw mine out. And what's happened down the line? Those cards have become like massively big collector's items. So
I was
I
going to
try not to
say,
think
if you,
about.
I was going to say, do you think you might have had some of them rare ones then that might be worth a few quid?
I think maybe. I definitely remember having a card that had a two on it, and it was a second edition one. And someone going to me, "Oh, that might be quite rare one day," and I just threw it out. And I think to myself now, oh, if I'd have just kept hold of them, my bank balance probably would be a lot healthier.
Yeah.
But hey
I,
ho,
well,
we live and we learn.
I had similar. I did, maybe again, I might be even said this story before, but I had quite a huge collection of Star Wars figures and toys. And anyway, I moved out of home. I came home a few years later, went up in the attic, and I said to my mum, "Where's all my Star Wars?" Because I knew I was looking at maybe selling them. And she went, "Oh, I gave them away years ago to so and so's son. Now, this so and so's son then went off to America to become a very successful director." And I thought, yeah, bastard, he's got all my Star Wars toys as well. He's probably shacked up with Kevin Costner, Karen, and Jared Leto in Hollywood Hills.
No, I was literally the reason I'm laughing is I was about to make the exact same comment.
So, and they're all playing with my Star Wars toys. Can you believe that? They're all sat
I
around
like
by the pool.
I like to think that the day your mum gave those away was the day you got done by Karen. Just to add salt in the wound.
But, I told you, I'm telling you, listeners, it's just give up now. It just gets worse as you get older. Miserable.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, only joking.
Well, I suppose we have to move on to a topic that might have a bit of a miserable answer. Depends on what your viewpoint is on it. But in
Mm,
the age that we live in now of AI and hyperpolished CGI,
yeah,
has the soul of the medium of animation been lost in your eyes, or do you reckon it still exists?
I think it still exists. I think it exists. I'm not completely sold on some of the animation that I see that comes out. Um, but I think it's probably like anything, isn't it? They just throw things together now, just to see if throw it against the wall and see if it will stick. Especially like when you got things like Netflix that are pretty much monopolizing everything when it comes to productions and viewing and streaming. But um, yeah, there's some really cool stuff going on. I think with the animation world. Again, like I said earlier, there's some CGI stuff not massively sold on. If it's done well, then brilliant. I'm trying to think if there's anything that I probably tend to stay away from a lot of the CGI. So if anything, it's not very memorable for me. But yeah, I like you say, there's a lot of Spider Verse and stuff like that. That's been pretty decent. I know I've watched a few of my lad Seth over the years, and I've really enjoyed them. Like, was it Spies in Disguise and things like that? Yeah, I don't know. I suppose you got the Despicable Me's, haven't you? I've quite enjoyed them, but again, I don't like the real. It's probably I don't like that CGI where it's trying to be too realistic, humanoidy or whatever. I suppose a bit like you were saying, like the Final Fantasy. That style. I just don't warm to it. I don't think.
My
Uh,
viewpoint is that I agree with you that sometimes CGI makes things too realistic, but I'm not actually going to use a humanoid example. I'm going to use the example of the Lion King remake they had a few years back, where yeah, the animals look really realistic, but a lot of the charm in the Lion King film is obviously like it's cartoony, the cutesy animal facial expressions, where they don't have that in the remake. It kind of feels like it loses its like heart a little
yeah,
bit.
agree.
I think, do you know what? I'm going to tie RuPaul's Drag Race into this, which I bet you never thought I'd do in our animation
No,
episode. RuPaul recently released a film called Stop That Train, which has a few drag queens off of Drag Race in it. And that actually received some backlash recently because it was accused of using generative AI. So I do think there is a bit of pushback on that front. I would like to see, you know how vinyls weren't in vogue anymore, and now suddenly they've become back in vogue, and they're kind of like
yeah,
they're saying vinyl sales are the highest they've been in like decades. I would like to see that with practical effects. The only issue is, obviously, practical effects they're very time consuming. They cost a lot to make,
mm,
and a lot of studios are going to want to cut corners, save money where they can for maximum gross profit. So as much as I'd like to see it happen, I'm not sure if it is going to happen, if that makes sense.
no, yeah, it makes perfect sense. I agree. I don't think it will because, like you say, it's all about the dollar, isn't it? And if you know, and it goes back to that thing we were saying earlier. It wasn't about like the Lord of the Rings. It cost millions, didn't it? Like in makeup, prosthetics, costumes to do a horde of an army of orcs compared to probably a few quid knocking together up some CGI. It's where you sort of again, we're not spending their money, are we? I suppose the
No.
studio wants to make money, don't they? All these studios. So, but to me, I just want to see beautiful art, be it animation, stop motion, 2D, 3D, CGI. Same with movies. again, I'm not. It's like Avatar. I know it's your sort of generation, and I did enjoy the first one. Second one I thought was all right, but I don't know. It's yeah,
I think it comes to a
it's
point where you have to look at whether it's style over substance. The Avatar films admittedly look stunning when you watch them on the big screen. The
mm,
stories, for me, are like, all right, they're like average. Um,
yeah,
I will say,
yeah.
speaking of studios making money, I used to watch a He-Man cartoon back in the day. They did a revival, I believe, in 2002, and I really loved the
Oh yeah.
cartoon. And it only went on for 2 seasons because they cancelled it. Not because necessarily the episodes cost a lot to make, but they made it to shift toys for the cartoon. The toys didn't shift, so they cancelled it.
Ah, okay. Did you
So
watch the?
I guess the pendulum swings both ways.
Well, this is it. Did you watch the recent ones on Netflix?
No, I
Masters of
didn't.
the
Would you rate
Universe.
them?
Do you know what? I actually thought they were all right. Yeah, I think they take a little bit of getting used to, warming to it, but it was all right. It was what's his name, weren't it? Kevin Smith.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I, it takes a few episodes to sort of get invested in the characters, and um, if anything, it's more about Skeletor. Can't remember because there's two seasons, and I'm trying to think which one. I think it's the first one. It's more about Skeletor, but and of course he's voiced by Mark Hamill,
Ah, amazing.
who again goes back to that thing I was saying earlier about having quality voice actors because he's done no end of voices, isn't he? He did the Joker in the Batman animated series.
I think his voiceover
Uh,
work for the Joker is the most acclaimed Joker from what I remember. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Of course, like I say, yeah, he did Skeletor. I think he did Chucky, didn't he? Didn't he voice Chucky in
I believe he did.
like
Yeah.
the recent ones or something? But I don't know. He's done other stuff, isn't he? And you think, no way, it's Luke Skywalker. But yeah,
To uh
yeah,
to wrap this one up, do you have an absolutely favorite animated film of all time? Like when you think of an animated film, you think of X.
yeah, yeah, I do. I mean, there's loads to choose from. Um, yeah, I'm going to go with that 1986 Transformers animated. You know,
Ah, I
um,
honestly thought you were going to
I
pick
think
something. I've never watched it, but I thought you were going to pick something like Spirited Away. I thought you were going to whip that one out.
no, I try and get into. I do. I love the style. My daughter Lila adores them. She loves them films, and in fact, we went to some exhibition last year. Um, just struggle with the storylines. I think if I was to just allow myself to switch off and relax and watch it, because I do love the animation. I think stylistically it's brilliant. They all are. Howl's Moving Castle. I have watched them, bits of them, but I've never made it all the way through, if you know what I mean. And that's not through being bored. It's just through, you know what it's like getting distracted, isn't it, with things going on uh, in your everyday life. But no, I think, like I say, I'm such a sucker. It's a nostalgia thing, but the '86 Transformers, I mean, it was initially diverse due to its sort of darker tone and major character death, like I said earlier. Um, and obviously, it did sort of later gain a sort of cult status. And it kind of bridged between the television series and what we were talking about earlier again about bringing in the new characters. Of course, it influenced sort of the future transformer media, that we've seen in the recent films over the years. Um, yeah, I just think it had an emotional, like I say, it killed off Optimus Prime, which for loads of young kids was, huge. It's quite bold storytelling. Um,
Whenever I think of that, I think of the episode of the Goldbergs where the young Goldberg watches it at the cinema with his like grandpa, and like Optimus Prime
Yeah.
gets killed, and he's sat there in the chair, and he's like, "Oh no, don't worry, he's gonna come back." And I sat there, and everyone's left the movie theater, and the movie attendant is like, "No, Optimus Prime is definitely dead."
It's Adam Goldberg. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. But
I
it's
suppose.
just it also again it goes back to that thing I keep saying. It had that killer voice talent. It had the voice talent of all these quality actors that would work all the TV shows and series, but it also had the big names. It had Orson Welles in it, and Leonard Nimoy as Galvatron, Judd Nelson, Eric Idle. Um, yeah, just quality film. And I watch it probably once or twice a year. And I do look at it and go, oh, actually, maybe it's a little bit dated now, but it's nostalgia and I love it.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, what about you?
So I'm gonna cheat a little bit, and I'm gonna pick a film series, or at least the first three
Oh,
films from that series, and I'm gonna say the Toy Story series because
yeah,
they
okay,
basically
yeah,
followed me from my childhood life to my late teens life. I remember watching the first one and being blown away. I liked the second one, and then the third one came out. Like, so when Andy is going off to college, it was when I was in my final year of sixth form, so I felt like it kind of spoke to me a little bit. And I feel like the first,
yeah,
it's not that I have anything against the fourth one, and they're releasing a fifth one soon. It's a case of the third one just left it on such a perfect note. I just wish it had rested there. So they're kind of my favourites, but also branching out when Into the Spider-Verse came out in 2018. I didn't initially want to watch it. Two people who I worked with at the time called Lewis and Depeche, who sat next to me in my little workstation, they really recommended it, and I was like, no, it looks really kiddie. I don't want to watch it and whatnot. And then the other half put it on. I think it was like many months after it came out, and we sat and watched it. And after it was over, I was like, oh, that was really good. And I went into work like on the Monday, and I was just like, so I finally watched Into the Spider-Verse, and they both looked at me, and I was like, I have to eat all of my words. It was actually really fantastic. And I think because it has just such a cool style to it and such a good story and a banging soundtrack, I'd like to add.
yeah.
So yeah, so it would be the Toy Story series and then also Into the Spider-Verse. So I cheated. I didn't say just one. I don't know why I set these questions saying just one because my answers are never just one, I'm afraid. But
Oh,
that's just
well, I'll
who
tell
I
you what. In
am
that
as a
case,
person.
yeah, in that case, then before we wrap it up, I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to say, if you could save one animated film from a burning building, present pinnacle or of the medium, what is it?
Oh God, now I've got a pick from one of those like four. I'll say the original Toy Story. Yeah, it has nostalgic memories for me. So
Yeah, I think that's a good shout. A good shout. Because how old would you have been when that came out?
it was 1995, so I was four, but I don't think I watched it till I was like about six or seven.
Yeah, yeah, I remember when it came out. It was just quite a big thing, wasn't it, at the time?
Yeah. Do you know what?
Um,
I still hate Sid to this day. And I still that
yeah,
baby that has the spider robot legs that still creeps me out to this day as well. And probably was the dawn of
yeah,
my fear of, and where I got arachnophobia from, to be honest.
really.
Yeah, it's really creepy. I
I
hate
think
it.
if I was going to pick one, I'm going to go with Wallace and Gromit's The Wrong Trousers. I think it's a
Oh,
masterpiece.
that's a great choice. Yeah, I can see why you picked that one.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, I've got like this sort of DVD box set that's got all of them on it and behind the scenes and everything. But yeah, Wallace and Gromit, like I say, it's a masterpiece. I think it's the greatest action comedy duo ever on screen. Um, I think the film's visually stunning. It's quintessentially British, isn't it? Features one of the greatest screen villains of all time,
Yes, it does. Uh,
Feathers McGraw.
I suppose with Wallace and Gromit, the big tragedy of them is that they're just not more widely recognised worldwide, but obviously loved in Britain. So
Yeah, yeah.
I will
Well,
say,
me
just
and Seth went to the BFI, didn't we? Like, was it last year now? And we managed to blag our way into a talk with Nick Park. Oh my God, I can't think what his name is. It's quite an unusual name, but he sort of took over or taken over from Nick Park. Oh my God. But anyway, they were promoting and talking about that was it. Was it last Christmas? Christmas, it might have been Christmas before when they released that last one.
Ooh,
Um,
now you're talking. I don't remember
you know
what
what I'm
year,
on
I'm
about?
afraid.
I reckon it might have been the year before then. But I tell you what, to listen to Nick Park, just such an incredible, down to earth, humble guy, But they brought out. They had a little suitcase and they brought out the characters. They were like really tiny. Like me and Seth were lucky because we sat down the front, so we got to pretty much see them. But it had the. You seen it? Did you see it? Vengeance Most Foul.
I'm afraid not, no.
Oh, you've not seen it? Oh, you need to watch it. Brilliant. I think it's on
I will
Netflix.
do. Do you know what? I was going to say
You,
Wallace and Gromit is one of those series. It's one of those rare series that has the golden honour where I don't think there is a bad one in there.
no, no. I've just had to cheat and Google. It's yeah, Merlin Frossingham. Sounds like a character from Wallace and
He does,
Gromit,
to be
don't
honest.
it?
Yeah.
Merlin Frossingham. But he's like, I think he's sort of like he was the protege of Nick Park, and he's sort of taken over. Really nice guy. But yeah, if you haven't seen it, it's so funny.
I'll add it to the
Um,
list.
and of course, it was the first one without the late great Peter Sallis, weren't it?
Oh, yeah, that makes me sad to think
But you
about.
wouldn't
Yeah.
you wouldn't tell the bloke. I think the bloke's called Ben Whitehead who did his voice, and you would not tell the difference. So he did a cracking job.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Well,
that's my recommendation.
I guess that is probably a
Yeah,
great place to leave this one. So,
yeah, I think so. We could just talk all night about this, can't we?
I know this is already our longest episode so
I
far,
know.
I'd like to add. So,
Yeah,
yeah, I think that is a great place to wrap this one up. So, to all the listeners out there, if you want to follow us, we have an Instagram handle, which is at Still Not Famous Pod. We have a TikTok handle of the same name. We also have a Facebook page, which is at Still Not Famous. And I'll give the advice that I always give. My mum is a lurker in the comments, so just be warned if you leave us any hate mail. You can listen to us on
it goes for you
Spotify.
too, Karen.
You can also listen to us on Spotify and YouTube. Feel free to rate us and comment us there as well. We will be back shortly. So whatever time of day
Yeah.
you're listening to this to is good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. And we'll speak to you
Good
soon.
night. See you later.
See you
Bye.
later. Bye.
Bye.